Well, welcome again to Z Roundtable, our roundtable on racial reconciliation. And I'm Pastor Lennox Zamore of Exciting Central Tampa Baptist Church. And wow, we have the ladies, the young ladies, the young generation today. This is the Millennial generation. And introduce yourselves, please.
I'm Tess Combs, or
Yeah, I'm meeting her for the very
Yeah.
first time today. I've never met her before.
This is my paternal obligation over here. Yeah, Tashelle Combs, if you're looking for my author stuff, I'm an author, a poet, a painter, a singer, all that stuff. So happy to be with you guys.
Amen.
Hi, I'm Meg Dalabes. Professionally, I'm a power-based violence educator, and I have my bachelor's degree in history, and very grateful to be here with you guys.
Is that right? Your bachelor's is in history.
Yeah,
Oh
she's
wow, beautiful,
Super
beautiful.
Hi everyone, I am Nell Zamore. Also, this is my father, and I am a registered nurse. Yeah, good stuff.
All right. Soon to be on her own, and as soon as you do that, I'll be coming in, driving your car. I'll be just.
You already do.
Soon you'll be driving your car.
But it's a joy to come to you again and just to talk about the racial issue, and it's a free-flowing dialogue, and I want to encourage all of you to just dialogue on the issue. What are the differences between this generation and the generation that I grew up in when it comes to, race matters, race reconciliation, and when it comes to the whole matter of Black history or whatever history? What are some of the differences? We're going to talk about that today. We will try to make sure that the dialogue is not very too cerebral, and just jump in and
try.
talk. So let's talk about power, because the society is constells around power. Everything in society is based on the construct of power. In homes, personalities develop because of how people relate to the power in the family. Power is important. And in our generation, we had a different concept of power than right now. Even when I was growing up, you don't talk back to your father. You don't talk back to your mother, because we valued the big man. There was a concept of big man. Now there's a different spirit. There's a different idea of power. And power is not coming from the big man. It's coming from, well, you tell us. How is the power structure different now as it relates to the race issue?
Yeah, I think I would even start with what you were just talking about in the family structure. And I can't speak for everyone, but I know in our family, there's a difference in how we view respect and power. It's more about conversation than dominion. So I want to teach my kids how to converse with me respectfully. And I think that is a lot of the ways how our generation expects things to happen, is communication and conversation. So if my son is acting up, I want him to be able to hold a conversation with me about it, not just say, no, you listen to me because I am me and you're you, and so your job is to submit and listen. I still expect him to follow what I'm saying, but I want him to understand his role in the family and why I'm able to speak up. So I think that communication has a big role in our power dynamics in our generation. The best communicators become the best influencers, and influence and power they go hand in hand. So it's not just who can control people, it's who can influence people, because people are free to choose what they want to do. We have options. I mean, we have information everywhere, options everywhere, so many. But if you can influence people towards a choice, then you have power, if that makes sense.
Wow.
Right?
Yeah. So So what might look to me like disobedience may not be disobedience to you.
No.
It may actually be empowering the child to express freely his opinion. Whereas in my growing up in the culture of my cohort, that would have been defiance. You just don't talk back. So things are different now, and so the way power. You were gonna say something.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think, and correct me if I'm wrong, but just talking it through, I think your generation is a little closer than our generation to slavery, and I think that kind of stems from that because slaves didn't have a choice. We couldn't talk back. We couldn't discuss. We couldn't do anything.
I'm that old
We
when you see me close to slavery.
You're basically
I mean,
you know.
Good gracious.
I know I have to drive you around now. No, I'm kidding.
Oh.
But I mean, seriously, like slaves, that was kind of the situation. That was power. Was it's the slave owners. You do what I say. There's no questions. And even among the slaves, I think in order to survive, you do what I say and don't ask questions. You know, if I'm gonna hide you right now, just be quiet and just hide because someone's coming. And I think our generation kind of realizes that, and we're deciding no, we don't want to go in that direction. We don't want to do that anymore. We have things to say. And so I just think that's kind of a little bit of the difference between, millennials and boomers or,
Wow. So Meg, power. How are things different growing up for you, as far as how you express?
Yeah. I think I've heard my parents, say often that our generation doesn't listen to authority well. We don't respect teachers. We don't respect, different authority figures, as if that's going to be the demise of us. But right now, I feel like we're seeing a lot of young people who are not satisfied with the way things are and feeling more comfortable, like Tess was using in the example of talking to a child. We feel like we should be able to speak. Black Americans feel like, hey, I should have a say. And I feel like there's more willingness to buck the system or to address that this isn't the status quo we want. And maybe that lack of trusting authority figures that my mom has observed in me and my generation is giving us this feeling like, hey, we should speak up, we should say things, we should be able to have a platform.
Right.
So the power. So there are two sort of constructs that guide, social change. One is called the big man theory in philosophy, and the other one is called the zeitgeist theory. And the big man's theory says that for things to change, great personalities, great people come on the scene, like a Columbus, and all of a sudden he starts to discover, and everybody discovers with him. And the other one says, no, Columbus was not the one that brought the change, but there was a zeitgeist, there was a spirit of the age that produced him. And in my, cohort growing up, we relied upon the big man. We always looked for a big man. In our entire culture, we've been looking for the Frederick Douglasses. We've been looking for, the Martin Luthers. We've been looking for, the Jesse Jacksons. In this generation, they don't need one, because it is not about the big man now. It is the collective power of everyone speaking up that makes everyone bigger than the big man, so that even someone maybe as big as the President of the United States may have to back up when everybody starts to speak, because everyone is bigger than the big man. Incredible.
Yeah, I think it has to do with the connectivity we have as a generation through social media, through streaming, and like I said before, our ability to influence. It's more about moving together and sharing information than one person controlling a narrative. One person can't control the narrative anymore.
Yeah.
Because we all, and there are people who influence the narrative, but there are so many sources of it. We all become sources of narrative now. Yep. I can go onto YouTube and I can almost say anything I want. I can go on Facebook, I can stream. I can go somewhere and someone else can stream me and put that out there. And what we're seeing with what happened with George Floyd is an example of that. That it couldn't be contained, it couldn't be erased necessarily, because of that connectivity that we have. And so we're starting to make decisions as a collective. And of course, there's lots of outliers to that. We disagree, we talk, but I do think our generation, in a sense, values the ability to disagree. Mm-hmm. We value it. So it's not like, and it's not all true for everyone. I'm kind of generalizing a bit. But we value the right and the privilege to say something crazy, tweet something crazy, mm-hmm. and see what people say. Mm-hmm. It's not you need to be, quiet.
That was the hardest thing for me. Pressing send is like, I would read that thing 100 times before I press send, because like,
there's always gonna be someone who doesn't like it. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But this generation, they don't think twice before pressing send. Okay, burning seemed to be something that people are looking down on and wondering what is the purpose in burning, and why actually burn your own neighbor? What is the benefit of burning? And burning actually is more psychological than it is actual
literal,
physical or social. That's why burning was introduced to control slaves and control African Americans even after they were freed. By burning crosses and burning churches, you're sending a message. And so when people burn, they're saying, I am burning what is conceptually to me represents the establishment, represent what is not me, what I don't have. I am not owner, you are owner, and you represent that to me. Therefore, I am attacking that. Even if that thing belongs to a black person, they don't care, because they have learned to associate burning. And Nelly, you were saying that when you tweet and use social media, you're actually burning. Wow, explain that.
I think Tess was saying that.
We all were collective. No. Go ahead.
It's the same concept. I mean, it's conceptualization. It's when we tweet, when we go on Facebook. I mean,
yeah,
it's pretty much it's pretty much the same thing. I think Tess can expand on it.
Yeah, that you can dismantle. You can dismantle an organization without it being just brick and mortar, because there's more to organizations now there's more to an institution than brick and mortar, than an actual building. So much of what we do is virtual. So much of what we do is branding. Mm-hmm. So if you can dismantle brand, it's I would say it's similar to burning. It's the same kind of thing. And so we have the power to do that. We're not necessarily destroying physical property, but it's removing influence from people that we no longer want to have, and this is happening as a collective that I see it. So when a company is saying something that we agree is not okay, we now can remove our consumerism from it. We can remove our advocacy from it. And that, in a sense, is going to burn that institution or that business or that organization. Does that make sense?
Wow. Yes. Yeah, wonderful.
And that's what we're seeing with blackout too. Mm-hmm. Just wanted to throw that in there. The blackout movement, where we're not going to spend money on certain days, is a similar kind of idea behind that. That if we remove you ever heard the idea of like where you spend your money is almost like voting for something, right? You're mm-hmm. advocating for that place. So if you remove your advocacy for something that you disagree with, there's power in that.
Yes.
So.
And so it's important that people recognize, and utilize your sphere of influence. And as people of faith, that's what kingdom means. My kingdom is my sphere of influence. Every child of God has kingdom. God gave you dominion. Your dominion is your sphere of influence, and God wants you to use that for righteousness. And that's why, right here we are not proponing any political party. We're not proponing any, we're not even actually there in support of any, even Black Lives Matter organization here at this table. Certainly, we do believe Black Lives Matter, and we do all that we can to enhance the betterment of Black people and people of every kind. But what we are motivated by and what moves us is lending our sphere of influence to the kingdom of God. Because the concept, nobody ever really gives up power. Power has to be taken. Slaves were not freed because people felt sorry. No, people fought, they died over it. Power is always taken. And so the concept of power, right now we see it, it's not that racism should stop because people feel sorry for African Americans or minorities. Racism should stop because it cannot afford not to stop. It cannot afford not to stop. The world now is going to come as a tsunami, and it is in the best interest of all of us to stop. People are not going to take it anymore because power is taken. It's never really given. I do want to give a disclaimer, and because we were using burning metaphorically, we don't support burning, by the way. So I want to give that disclaimer. But you're saying Jesus, he was different.
Yeah, I think Jesus is the only case that I've found in theologically where it's upside down. There's a reversal of power. I think human nature is such that you want to increase your power, and giving it away doesn't make any sense. Making yourself more vulnerable doesn't make sense. Whether you're talking adaptation, whether you're talking about just society, nations, you don't just give away. I mean, what nation's just like, you know what? I don't want to be this powerful. I'm just going to give, I'm just going to siphon it off. You don't. You maintain what you have. You retain power. Power retention is kind of the whole deal. But Jesus comes in and he reverses that. And so even Matthew 20, I was looking at when he has a conversation with his disciples, and he explains, here's verse 25. Jesus called them together and said, "You know that the rulers of the Gentiles lord it over them, and their high officials exercise authority over them. Not so with you. Instead, whoever wants to become great among you must be your servant, and whoever wants to be first must be your slave. Just as the Son of Man," as Jesus is talking about himself there, "just as the Son of Man did not come to be served, but to serve and to give his life as a ransom for many."
Wow.
So the idea that God is going to give himself up for other people, we would think, oh, well, that's a decrease in power. That doesn't make any sense, right? Why would an omnipotent God give up power and become less powerful? But what he's trying to explain in a kingdom sense is that giving up power is increase of power. That giving up of yourself is an increase of the concept of self. We become whole now.
Wow.
It's not I give up myself and I become less. I give up myself and I now include you, and now we're all together.
Ooh, that's why Jesus is the answer.
And I think throughout the Bible, he tries to show that to us in many different ways, because it's, like you said, it's flipped. When he tries to push and show us humility is the key, and we think, oh, who wants to be humble? We want to be flashy, money, all these things. And he talks about how he's close to those who are brokenhearted and who are lost, and that's a blessing. Yeah. And we think, oh, how sad this person has lost somebody or lost their house, and he's saying, no, that person is blessed. Blessed are the poor. All these different things. It's exactly what you're saying. Throughout the Bible, he tries to teach us that. Yeah. Power is different.
Yeah. It's a reorientation of how we think. And that's why he was such a revolutionary. And I think that even when the Pharisees wanted him dead, it wasn't really like, ooh, let's get rid of him because he's so great. It was, let's get rid of him, the people. He's influencing the people. We cannot control these people anymore.
So as we get close to the equity that all of us are desiring, there's probably going to be more tension, because power does not ever concede. Yeah. Power is taken. And so that's the tension we are feeling now.
And what
A group
call
of people
is that on
feel
the church?
yeah a
Because
group
then power must be given if you're the church.
a group of people are feeling, well, they're taking from me, and another group is saying, well,
You're not giving,
you're not giving,
and we don't have.
we don't have, and we've had to, from day one, we've had to
Yep.
fight for everything we got, and we learned to fight from really from you. But there's one way, and that is if we do this Christ's way,
We give.
then we can give. Then we can freely give. It's good to give, and this is why America is the should be the prototype for the world. We were the ones who sent missionaries everywhere in the world to show what civilization should look like if you have Jesus. We should be able to accommodate one another by giving of ourselves. You
Yeah.
came, tell me where you are a third generation
immigrant, so to speak, right? But what's interesting, is I called my papu, my grandpa, and and I asked him what racism, what discrimination did he face when he moved over to America, and he was like, oh, nothing really, da da da. He picked up on why I was asking, and he goes, oh, well, it's different because I was from Europe, which I think he meant it's different because I'm white. But when you guys are talking about power, I'm thinking for me, well, that's my white privilege, right? And right now, and in the last 10 years, however long, you see a lot of white people getting upset at that, like that's somehow offensive. But when we're talking about relinquishing power and serving, in the last few weeks of everything that's been going on, where I've been challenged to acknowledge what white privilege do I have, what white women privilege do I have, and using that to serve, that doesn't harm me, that doesn't take anything away from me, that's connected me to people, that's made me feel, and this is part of that privilege, it's made me feel like I'm helping and belonging somewhere, and I don't have to face as much discouragement as other folks in that. But I don't feel like I'm losing power when I'm using my white privilege. I feel like I'm able to help and serve, and that ties into that, I feel like.
And you do that every day in your job. You are rescuing people, you are saving women from being battered, you are if we give, didn't Jesus say it's more blessed to give more blessed to give than receive? And when we have, you see, we live in a society that, although we call it democracy, but it's really rugged individualism that is bent on taking. The American culture is really truly bent on that. I mean, we took from the Indians. We came and we took as much gold as we can from the third world. We just take. We go, we will bomb people, and then we just take. And then we wonder, well, why are people mad at us? But giving, America has also given a lot. That's why I am here. That's why I am in this country with the accent that you hear. That's why you are here.
Yeah.
Because when it comes to that, you are just like me. We are all immigrants. All of us came here for one thing, and we can share that thing.
Yeah.
We need to tolerate one another and live and show the world the America that we know. Not an America that is divisive and divided, one-sided and racist. America that truly can portray diversity.
Yeah, I think a lot in this current civil rights movement, I think that a lot of people, maybe especially white brothers and sisters, might feel as if the American dream is being attacked. That this ideal that we strive for is under attack and being criticized and maybe being dismantled, picked apart. But I feel like it's being defended in a real way. Wow. And it's not comfortable, and it's not, yay, but we're defending it against racism and something that long term is not sustainable. It just cannot be. Yeah. We can't have the American dream and racism. forever. It just doesn't work. And America has to be inclusive. Equality and the American dream have to go hand in hand. There has to be equal opportunity, or we're not going to be able to continue it. So this is in a way a defense of that, at least in my perspective.
Well, I'm gonna rock the boat a little because
Do
we
it.
have to. More? All right.
Wow.
You were saying that, okay, when the framers of the Constitution
Yeah.
wrote those words, what was their reality?
Yeah, I think so. The reason I mentioned in the beginning being a history major is because as right now I'm sitting here thinking, what did I learn? What did I pay a lot of money for in college to learn? And how was it so incomplete? You know, the Declaration of Independence, 1776, Thomas Jefferson, founding father, wrote the famous words that rocked the whole world, that all men are created equal. And that's an inalienable right, right? But he owned up to 600 slaves throughout his lifetime.
While he was writing that, probably.
Right? Yeah. And so you hear a lot of white folks say, well, that was forever ago, right? But think about how he was able to justify writing those words while living that lifestyle, and how have we throughout the generations as white folks continue to say, well, it's okay the way it is. This is just the way it is. And instead of really making those words true, making those American values true, the biblical values true.
Yeah, I think when we say just the way it is, it's because we don't realize the power that we have in creating the way it is.
Yeah.
Things are just the way it is because of us, because we make it that way.
Yes.
Like, systems don't just kind of happen. And even me, I'm not a very political person. Well, and I don't know how many millennials are super political, or I think there's a lot of us who are like, I don't really want to do that. It seems really uncool and unnecessary to fight about parties and all that stuff. But we, in our ignorance or our laziness or our comfort, we create it. We're complicit.
Yeah.
When we don't listen and we just say this is the way it is, that's us being complicit. And I say us to just include all Americans.
But again, you guys come from you are the Uber generation. You're the guys who don't believe in the big.
I hope that does not stick. I hope we have not become the Uber generation.
You are the Uber. You guys don't believe in the convention. You don't believe in the big man.
Bitcoin.
You know,
yeah,
Bitcoin.
We're decentral.
You decentralize everything. You know, Republican, Democrat. I wonder if there will be a time in America when that might even change too. I'm not even sure how you're going to have a convention with COVID. COVID has almost dismantled the...
Okay, but you can't blame our generation for COVID.
No,
I'm like Uber and then COVID. I mean,
I think it's how we respond to it.
I know, I'm messing with him.
You saying we... Okay.
I have a powerful analogy to share with Uber, and it's not mine. It was from a training, but the real short version is, the older generation, my parents' age and up, you could drunk drive, truthfully. You could drive drunk. It was socially acceptable. If you got pulled over, law enforcement may or may not have done something about it. Our generation revolutionized Uber, Lyft, and we're allowed to socially accept. I could say, Nell, I'm taking your keys. You drank too much. And that would be okay. And then we would take an Uber and get home safely. And there's a lot of penalties for drunk driving nowadays. Mm-hmm. It's very damaging for someone's career. It's financially expensive, etc. So the point being, in just one generation, that was revolutionized. Mm-hmm. And that's a lot, that's a much simpler conversation. But the power of when we all get together, say something is wrong, say something is harmful to the community, and then start changing the system and holding each other accountable can happen.
The system has changed.
Yeah. We're very innovative.
Yeah, you don't have to go to a store anymore. They'll bring it to your house. Everything has been decentralized. It is the whole world. And I don't believe it is even possible for racism to be sustained. It's not like people are begging for it to, please don't hurt us. No, you can't keep doing it. It's not going to work. This is going to, the world has to change. People who are listening to me right now, you can't sustain it because the people who you are doing it to will not tolerate it anymore. The systems will not be able to tolerate it anymore. I think America is such a wonderful place a much better place, and we just need to dialogue. How? Let me ask a question to you. When you grew up, I mean, this whole Floyd situation and all that, was that a wake up call? I mean, is because for a lot of people, just like we didn't see COVID coming, for a lot of people it's like,
They're
where did that come
surprised,
from?
Out of nowhere.
Out of nowhere. But for a lot of people, that was
Not surprising.
this has been happening for a long
time.
time.
The difference between a surprise and the last straw.
Yeah,
Yes.
exactly. Yeah, surprise.
And like this is
And this
going
is
on
the
too
last
long.
straw. Two
Yeah.
people living two different realities.
Mm-hmm.
It's amazing. It's amazing. And what makes the difference is dialogue. You know, dialogue. How can you
I think.
the key is to dialogue. I know we were talking today. I did a painting, and in the painting, my daughter is an incredible artist, and you can Google her stuff to Tess Combs, and she has all of us painting all around this room is full of art. That's what we do. My extended family
are
now,
the ones I don't
about 50 of us. You know, we paint on Zoom every week. So tomorrow is our painting, like
Yeah, we do.
55 of
big
us all over the world are
It's a
painting at the
competition.
same time in a competition, and it's just wonderful and beautiful that we are doing that. And so I painted this painting, and it's a painting really of the guy who carried Christ's cross, Simon of Cyrene, a black man. The first man to be covered with the blood of Christ was a black man. And the picture basically is a picture of him now cannot carry his cross and needs help to carry his cross. And when I said that, you remarked that
Yeah, I didn't know that he was black.
I didn't know he was black. And I mentioned that because it is possible to go to the same school but not get the same education. Because some education is the responsibility of a culture to teach. And how can I say this in a nice way? If someone dehumanizes you,
You don't have to say it nice. Just say it.
yeah, if someone dehumanizes you, that person cannot also educate you. It can't.
Oh my gosh.
It
Put on
just
a t-shirt.
it can't happen.
Hashtag.
And so people have had to get educated elsewhere. Also.
Which
Under-
social media and
underground.
everything
Yeah.
is creating.
Exactly. And so you learned things. Black history didn't begin with a slave ship. And that's what we were taught. Our history began as slaves.
Right.
The best you can ever be is a slave. And so we reject that history. There's no class you go to is going to teach you correct history because the person who wrote the history is the same person who enslaved you. And so we've had to literally seek truth elsewhere.
I
And
remember.
this generation actually will find. This is you guys invented. How do you tell if somebody is false?
Lie
Fact
detector?
check?
Yeah,
Oh,
fact check. This is the fact
lie
check
detector?
generation.
We
I
did
like
not
that. This generation gonna fact check you. Yes, sir. You know, before growing up, if it's in a book, it must be true. It's in a book. Not this
Has
generation.
spoken.
They're gonna fact check you. Why? Fact check because why? They've learned
We'll fact check.
to
the fact
learn. They have learned to learn for themselves. They've learned to educate themselves, not just to eat what they,
They're also the
eat what
generation
they
of
are given.
misinformation. There's
Exactly.
so much information.
Well, it's not the generation. It's always been misinformation. It's just
Always.
we're the ones that like,
There's-
hold on.
So much.
We
You
don't
have
have
to.
to stop.
I remember looking even as a kid, going through my history book and seeing how much the section was for Black history.
Yep.
It was literally like, when you have like the 2 columns, it was like 1.5 column. It was not much. It was just like, and then there were some African people, and they came and they were enslaved for maybe about 400-ish years, and then on to the Civil War, and there's all this stuff about the
Plymouth.
Civil War, which wasn't about black people. It was just Abraham Lincoln did some stuff, and they were fighting Confederates, and the Gettysburg Address was in there, and then also some black people got free. It's like one sentence, like in bold, so you can highlight it, and then emancipation, yay. And then fast forward, and they went all the way to like 1960s, and you got Rosa Parks, you got Martin. That was it.
Yeah.
Maybe Frederick. You didn't get anyone else. You know, you got a little spicy of Harriet in there. You know, Underground Railroad, a little bit, a little sprinkle. But then that was it. That was it.
And the fact that it's over now. That
And
everything, that
he
it's so
did it.
simple as
Flag,
it's all.
you know, yeah. They were
Yes.
like, and it's over. Martin Luther King did it, and some of them wouldn't even mention that he was assassinated. They were just like, there was this guy, and he did peaceful protests, nailed it.
No.
Next chapter. And so even I homeschool my oldest, and I opened our first time doing history, I opened it up, and it was a religious curriculum too. I opened it up, got to the first part, and it starts with American history, you know, landing, Jamestown, talks about Native Americans, and they were like, and they were nice to us, and now that's over, you know. I was
horrible.
like, what
No.
is this?
No.
And so I had to close the book, threw the book away. I was like, we're going to have to talk about these things because this isn't going to cut it. Just, we were nice to the Native Americans. They were nice to us. We had a Thanksgiving. Here are some pictures of their teepees.
Yeah. No. That
Shocking.
fact check it. Your generation would, because we grew up, you know, very misinformed. I mean, in my time, and what is happening now, sort of, to a certain extent, that revolution took place in the Caribbean also, where we had to decide to resist the kind of education that we are getting and delve into actually educating your own self in a way that is human and humane. So we were taught growing up, for example, in the Caribbean, the indigenous Caribbean people were called the Caribs and the Arawaks. And that's in the books now. The Caribs were cannibal people who ate the Arawaks. That's how we.
That's what they just. That's how they.
That's what we were taught. They
just
were
minimalize
Caribs,
it,
and
yeah. They generalize it.
And we had to remember that's not true. Nobody. You killed the Arawaks. You killed all of them till there was not one of them.
The
You killed
settlers.
all the settlers killed all the Arawaks.
But they justified it by saying they were bad towards
Yeah,
each
and
other.
saying that the Caribs ate the Arawak, but that's not true. And that would have happened to the Indians in America too, had they not fought. Everyone would die.
Americans.
Every single one would die.
Yeah.
That's just reality. And people had to say, well, that's true. It's fact. It's true. You can't hide it. History cannot be hid. Because if you hide it, it'll repeat itself. And so that was a fact. And that's how people have to educate themselves. White, black, everybody has to educate ourselves that that's our history. That's our reality, but it doesn't have to be our future. And we can move into the sunset, but I believe moving into the sunset cannot happen except we do it with the faith of our Lord Jesus Christ. I believe that is the joy. That is beautiful. I heard something unfortunate, and very unfortunate, because a lot of people have taken hostage what's happening here to spin it for their own advantage against America. I believe to a certain extent that the very life of America, the breath of America, because we have the breath in COVID is a breath, and with George Floyd it's breath. But I also believe that America's breath is at stake, and so we have to be careful as how we respond to these things.
I think
Go
too,
ahead.
one of the first, so George Floyd, you know, ignites this movement, and I was praying and thinking like, all right, God, what am I supposed to do? That's a big question. We're all sharing things on Facebook, and I'm like, this is great. I'm sharing every post. I'm liking everything, you know. It's like, this is finally happening. We've been waiting for so long. We've been reading, we've been studying. I think Black people have been, for us to have an opportunity to say the things we need to say. But then I was like, what are we going to do next? Like, what are we going to do? as a generation, what are we going to do that? So I prayed about it. I was like, where do you want me, God? Do you want me marching? Do you want me writing? Do you want me painting? And right before this, I'd gotten a word too that we're going to need people who can, in the arts, we're going to need people who can paint. We're going to need people who can write. We're going to need people who can accrue knowledge and share it. So I was like, all right, we're going to do a book club. And you guys are both in the book club. We have about 50 people in it.
Wow.
If you don't want to join our book club, it's called Unprecedented. If you don't want to join ours, start one. Because what we're going to do now is while we have the attention of the nation, I see it as like positioning, right? We're changing our trajectory. Even if you can, you can turn someone like, just that much.
Yeah.
You have this opportunity where people are a little bit flexible, maybe for a few weeks, maybe a month, maybe a few months, but you can change the trajectory of people towards education, towards an idea. If we can do that, so I'm like, if we can get a book in people's hands where maybe not all of them are gonna change, revolutionize this whole, but maybe some of them will.
Yeah.
That's so valuable. So I like what you're saying about educating and informing, that we don't just share information that people are giving us, but we learn how to dialogue about this. We learn how to read about it, and we don't get tired and lose our attention, which our generation can do. Sometimes we get a little distracted.
Sometimes.
There's a lot going on.
Because if we don't do it, there are people willing to do it for us to our own chagrin. So I'm listening to the radio 2 days ago, and I'm listening to this show as I'm driving to church. And this they had this long discussion going, and they are painting Christianity as the white national religion. So they're saying the reason why the religious right is with Trump is that both of them are racist, and that Christianity is the national religion of white racists. And it's a show, and they're talking about this. Boy, I wish I could have called in, because when we act the way we act, we're giving an impression to people that by association, our religion and our belief is not comparable with politics. And it was not a show you could call in, but I want to say openly that Christianity is quite the opposite of racism. It has nothing to do with white nationalism, and people should not see Christianity as what is as a political machinery of anybody. Jesus Christ came to change racism, came to deliver and to liberate people, and to give us power without the consequence of us having to lose everything. And that's what we believe. We believe that, accepting Jesus Christ as your Savior and living out the character of Christ is the answer. It has been what America is about, and I believe it is the answer to America. It's not a white person's religion. It's not white nationalism in any kind of way whatsoever.
Well, I mean, this is just maybe just me just thinking about it, but it has to be the only, Jesus has to be the only, I was thinking about it. How would we can protest, we can, march, we can put Black Lives Matter on the ground, companies can put, we stand in Ben and Jerry's, it's great, but we can place policies, we can put all these different things in place, but racism is a mindset of a person. Mm-hmm. So yeah, you can do all this stuff, but at the end of the day, people are still racist.
The character has to change.
The character has to change, and how do you change something that's been systemically in place for so long? Mm-hmm. It's ingrained in a person, and they're going to teach they're going to teach their kids, and they firmly believe that's right. So we can put policies, and cops can't just randomly shoot Black people, and you go into a store, you can't be racist to me, but how can you actually change it? And the answer is just simple. It's just Jesus, literally.
Yep.
No.
Heart
literally.
change. Heart change.
There's no other way.
I was talking to a white pastor, a good friend of a white pastor, and just from what you're saying, so I said to him, the people who had slaves also had religion. They were Christians.
Mm-hmm. And it
They
was
brought
justified.
their slaves. I mean, The people who lynched you,
Right.
Christians.
Right.
Sunday after church.
Christians. 11 o'clock was the most segregated hour in America. Because that's when church people, now I have to be, so that's why people are saying the kind of
That's why
things
they
they're
are.
saying.
Right.
That, and when I said to the white guy, Pastor, you know what he said to me? He said to me, Pastor Z, they were not Christians. And for the first time, it hit me hard. Not everyone who says, Lord, Lord, is a Christian. Some people are Christian by political affiliation.
Yeah.
You can't
The
love him
Bible
and hate
says,
your brother.
no one,
Yeah.
come on, Tess. Come on, take it away.
Well,
Nobody
you,
can,
You can't love Christ and hate your brother.
you cannot.
Right.
The book of John says you cannot do it. It's impossible. If you hate your brother, you're not Christian. All of you listening, if you hate anybody, you are not saved. You are not a Christian. You can go to church all you want.
You're
you are not a
religious.
Christian.
You're
You are
religious.
religious.
You don't have faith.
Racists cannot be simultaneously a racist and a Christian.
Right.
You cannot. The book of John says you can't. It can't. Out of the same heart cannot come hatred and love, he says. And so that's the joy of Christianity. It dispels racism. Christ says what defiles person is not what you put in your mouth. What defiles you is your character that comes out. And for somebody to be changed, your character has to change. And so what changes America is not necessarily, yeah, we need policies. Yes, we need affirmative action. I think all these things are good, but at the end of the day,
Right.
they don't change the character of a person.
Right.
The GDP of a country is its character, and the GDP of each person is its character. And if the character of each American changes, we have no more racism. It's going to be hard,
Yeah.
but that's what we have to look forward to, a world where, and the only time that's going to happen is as people become more and more like Christ. Well, wow. What a great time we've had. What a great time we've had. My good friend Zelvis just texted me, and he says, am I supposed to be here today? I thought it was only young people.
Calling him on the spot.
So he said, I thought it was only young people. And
He's young.
no, but we did say
We did
when he was here last time that
Yeah.
he and I won't be in it, just you guys.
Well, you're young.
So,
We
Zelvis,
redeem you.
Zelvis, I am young and you are not, my boy. My friend. In the Caribbean, we say boy and it doesn't really mean much. Well, again, we thank you so much for participating in this. And thank you for Meg for participating and for saving so many, well, I was going to say so many women, but there are a lot of men too who are now recipients of domestic violence. I used to do domestic violence interdiction, and I was finding that more and more men now are actually facing violence also.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What's a number someone can call if they need?
Yeah, for oh gosh, I don't have it memorized, and I have the out of town number. I can
That's
find
okay.
it, but there is an 800 number for domestic
Okay.
violence or sexual violence where somebody can call and talk confidentially with an advocate. And I really appreciate you guys sharing and using your platform for this, because we know that unfortunately Black women and Black girls disproportionately face higher rates of domestic violence and sexual violence, and that didn't just happen. That's because of the foundations of this country and the values that we have and that dehumanization. So when we're talking about the church coming in as a place of healing and empathy and reaching people, those are wounds. And so you guys addressing that is really inspiring and helpful.
Yeah, we can
Awesome.
put that number in when we go live.
We will put
Yeah.
that number in for you, and we just love you and we appreciate you. Thanks again, Meg, Nell,
You're pretty cool, I guess.
and Tess. Well, the Z Roundtable on Race Reconciliation, signing out.
Oh wow, that was a thing right there. Okay.
We definitely need a graphic.